So we're here with Jack Snipp, Assistant Principal at UTC Reading. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at the UTC?
Of course. So my main role is looking after pastoral, which includes behaviour, attendance, and just basically the whole person really, which is separate to their sort of academic side. So I look after making sure that the children get to school on time, that they're punctual, that they turn up every day, and I chase them if they don't. And I also look after giving them lots of praise when they're doing the right thing, and putting in interventions if they're not quite doing the right thing. And also people's sort of mental health and well-being as well comes under my job. Also, obviously being a teacher, I also teach. I teach computer science and IT, which is obviously an important part of my job as well.
What made you want to go into teaching?
I think it was over the years when I was in my early 20s, I was an IT trainer. So I've worked in IT companies a lot. And then having done that for quite a few years, I then stopped and had babies. And I've got 4 children of my own. Stopped to have some children, and in between that, I decided to get into sort of IT management. So I ended up becoming a network manager and ended up working in schools. And once I was working in schools, fixing their IT infrastructure and managing it, I realised I actually had a lot of knowledge that I could impart to the students. So I started dabbling in teaching some of the A-level students things like networking, which was part of my role as looking after their sort of network infrastructure in a school. And I realised I had the skills and the knowledge to be able to sort of give real life experiences, I guess, of what it's like working in IT. So I dipped my sort of toe in the water when I was network manager, and then about 6 years ago now, I actually decided to go and retrain to become a teacher.
And what made you choose IT all of those years ago?
I think when I first, well, a long time ago, over 30 years ago now, I did my A-levels and I did A-level computer science. So I've always been interested in computers and programming and things like that. And when I started work, my very first job when I was 18 was I was a secretary. But very quickly, I became what they called a super user at the time. So I looked after the printers, I put the toners in, I cleared paper jams. So I was trained up to do all of those little things. And we had an email system called All-in-One, which was a bit like what we see now in email, but it wasn't as sophisticated. And obviously we didn't have the internet really at the time. So I was then made into all-in-one supervisor. So when people joined the company, I would train them how to use this all-in-one system, how to save files and folders and all of that kind of stuff. So it made me realise, one, that I had the sort of teaching skills, and two, I liked the IT stuff. I was a bit of a geek and I wanted to like teach other people how to use it, I guess. But then when I did my degree a few years ago, when I did my teacher training, I got sponsored by the British Computer Society. So they paid for my teacher training 6 years ago. So I was given like 20 odd thousand tax free to go and do my teacher training. So at that point, I had to give up my network manager job. And of course, having 4 kids and a mortgage, the BCS really helped me out with that sort of scholarship, paying for my degree and helping me pay my mortgage, I guess, for that year of teacher training.
So why did you choose to work specifically at UTC Reading as opposed to any other school?
Well, I worked at the Bournemouth School for many years as the network manager, and then when I got my teacher training job, I got my teacher training position was at the Forest School in Winnersh. And I did work there for about three or 4 years, being a computer science teacher. I was the head of department there as well. But I really missed industry, I guess. And having done that teaching for sort of 4 years, an opportunity at UTC came up, and I thought, you know what, UTC is a little bit of a halfway house for me because it has all of the industry partners. It meant that not only could I teach, but I could also work with these industry partners. So it felt a little bit more like being back in industry again. And I absolutely loved it. Within my first year at UTC, I was on a trip to Munich with Fujitsu, which I absolutely loved. And I've done so many cool things since I've been here working with our industry partners. So it really is the best of both worlds, being able to teach computer science in a really lovely school and having that industry partner where the industry cares about what we're teaching our kids, because at the end of the day, the students that we've got in our school are their future employees. So we want to make sure that we teach them the right skills for industry.
And how has lockdown affected the way that you're teaching and the way that you're just going about life at the moment, really?
I think for the first couple of weeks, I did struggle. Being a bit of a geek, I've got all of the technology. I've got my, my watch, my iPad, all of those kind of things. But being at home, teaching from my dining room table with a computer and trying to teach lessons when you can't see the students' faces, you can interact with them, but not in the same way like you do in a classroom. So I really missed the banter. I really missed being in front of the students. So for 2 weeks, I struggled. I kept forgetting to press record on the lesson as well. So people who didn't make it to my lesson missed the lesson. So I really struggled for 2 weeks. And then it was the Easter holidays, and I thought I'm just going to have a bit of a break. Came back after Easter and thought I'm just going to have to get my head around this because it's going to be a long lockdown. I think I had in my mind it will be about 12 weeks. It's been a bit longer than that, but once I got my head around it, I got myself a big monitor, a separate keyboard and a mouse and speakers, and I got all of the technology around me. And now I think nothing of talking to somebody on a screen. It feels quite natural now, but it did take a few weeks to get used to.
It does. It sort of feels like normal life was so long ago, having those proper face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
It's going to feel so unnatural when we go back.
Although I have been working in the bubbles in the school since the 1st of June, so I've had that sort of face-to-face interaction. So I've kind of got my mojo back now, like working with kids face-to-face. It is so much nicer being in front of children rather than them being behind a screen. And I think because we encourage the students not to have their videos on, and we just hear their voice or maybe their chat in the chat group, it's not the same as actually being in front of a student. So I can't wait until September when we've got the whole school back again. It's going to be fantastic.
Could you tell us a little bit about Jax as a person? What are some of your personal interests?
I think one thing everybody will say about me, hopefully, is I'm a really positive person. I'm definitely a glass half full rather than half empty. So I will always try and spin a negative into a positive. And sometimes that winds people up with my positivity, but I am a positive, sort of happy person. I'm also extremely competitive, hence why you'll see me on Benji's quiz every week on UTCR Live, because we like to try and win. We get beaten every week, though, I will say that, but I am a competitive person. And outside of that, I've got a new bike. I've got one of these e-bikes. So my daughter and my family say I cheat because it's got a battery, but actually it doesn't go anywhere unless you pedal it. So although it has got a battery, it just, now that I've turned 50, I can get over the hills a bit better and I don't get quite so out of puff, but it's still, you have to work on it. So riding my new bike, it's peppermint green. It's absolutely beautiful. That's one of my big things at the moment. I've been going on sort of 35 mile cycle rides over lockdown, which has been really, really nice, especially in the gorgeous weather. And walking, I've got 2 dogs, so I walk those every day. As I said, I've got 4 children, although they're mainly grown up now. My youngest is 13, my oldest is 26, and I've also got a little grandson, Louis, who's 2, and he keeps me entertained at the weekends.
So before the whole coronavirus pandemic occurred, what was your favourite part of the day?
I think my favourite part of the day is when everybody's gone to bed in my house and I can get the TV remote and watch Netflix. I tend to be a bit of a night owl. I hate getting up in the morning, I'll admit that. I like to have a bit of a lie-in at the weekend. So my favourite part of the day is not the morning because I hate getting out of bed. I like the evenings where I kind of wake up about 9 o'clock and think, everybody else is starting to be on the slow down, going to bed or whatever. I tend to be thinking, that's when my brain comes alive. And quite often I'll get my laptop out and start working at that point and have been known to work till 12, 1 in the morning. So, yeah, I think the evenings are my favourite time. The best time, I think, is definitely a Friday night. Friday night is quiz night, have a glass of wine night, have a takeaway night. So Friday evenings are my best time of the week.
Quite interestingly, completely the opposite to Rob. Rob said his favourite time was first thing in the morning when nobody else was awake.
There's definitely a pattern though that it's about when other people aren't around. It's when you can get that me time, whether it's late at night, first thing in the morning. Because I know Rob all the time. He's always beats me into school. He's always the first one here. Whereas I'm always the last one here, but I'll be the last one in the building though. So quite often at the end of a UTC day, I'm the last one, like I'm being thrown out by Andrew, and locked up behind. So it just depends on the type of person you are, I suppose.
And have you got anything just to finish off or anything you want to say to our audience?
No, obviously, I think UTC is a great school to go to. If you've got any interest in computing, engineering, STEM, anything like that, UTC is the best school. I missed my old school when I first arrived here because it was so different. But now I'm here, I wouldn't change it. I absolutely love being here. And I love the unique things we do. The fact that in lockdown, everybody's had to teach lessons from home. We went one step further and did live lessons. You know, when we were doing open evenings, we had to do virtual ones. We go one step further and do live virtual tours with like a whole TV crew. We do things that one step ahead. The fact that I've been able to come here and take my professional qualifications, I've got, you know, 4 now, been pushed by Rob to get my prof quals, and I'm really pleased that I was pushed, and that it's an expected thing. You know, you come to this school to be a teacher, but also to get that professional element as well, which I think makes us a unique school, really, and I absolutely love it here. And having the radio station, obviously, again, puts us in that unique position. There's not many schools that have got their own radio station, so well done, Benji and crew.
So a huge thank you to you, Jax, for coming on, and of course all of you for listening in. You can catch the Big Family Quiz Night this Friday